Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar talking about the Sitecore Symposium and the insights. Symposium is always a fun place to meet all of the community and friends. I always have a lot of fun at the symposiums, as well as learn what Sitecore is doing, especially in the MVP Summit. So I was really envious when these three gentlemen ended up there and I didn't. So let's just go through it.
All right, Nashville, right, seems to be the land of conferences these days. Everyone seems to be heading towards Nashville. It seems to be the new Vegas, right? But this was a really, really great venue. It was huge. It was like an indoor town almost. It felt like there was so much. It was much bigger than I expected it to be. There was like different wings, different themes throughout the venue, and it was like an indoor, I don't know, indoor Venice slash jungle almost. There was so much greenery indoors, and it kind of regulated temperature really, really well. But one thing I didn't know before I came, not being a country music fan in general, is the Grand Ole Opry is actually very, very famous, right? And there's a lot of musicians that have passed through here, and they even have their own radio station. I found out afterwards. I think Matt, you were telling me a little bit about this.
Yeah, again, I'm not as big in country as well, but you always know Nashville, and you always hear about the Grand Ole Opry, and then I know it has the oldest radio station, as you say. It was kind of neat because it was probably about 20 minutes from downtown Nashville and Broadway, which is where we ended up several nights, whether it was at the symposium party or the. I'll give a shout out, even though it's a competitor. Horizontal Digital had an amazing party and allowed us in, so that was really cool. But it was off to it was about 20 minutes northeast of the city, and it really was its own kind of ecosystem. I mean, I almost felt when you were talking about how to explain it, it was like biodome or something like that. And you had the skylights coming in, as you can see in the picture. It really almost felt like you were outside at times, and we made use of much of the facility, whether you were getting drinks or dinner with people outside of it. But then what we're looking at straight ahead, the symposium itself was held at that convention center area, and it was several stories between the partner pavilion and then where the conferences were happening, and then also the MVP summit was in an even different part from there. So it was really, really impressive, and you got the feel of this being the epicenter of its own little burg outside of Nashville. And we, from our first night, we got a feel of music everywhere you go. There were bands playing. It could be 1 a.m, not that we were out at 1 a.m, but it could be 1 a.m at a bar and there's a band playing, even on the outskirts here. So it was really alive, and the announcements were alive as well. But a really, really nice place to go. And I'd finish by saying it's really cool when you have conferences like this, and Lukasz is a part of this in the Sitecore User Group Conference Europe. When you select the cities, it almost becomes a point in time that you always remember, and the ability to be able to visit those cities and really immerse yourself in them and have a really nice time from a business and a personal perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
certainly for myself, I don't think this is a city I've never visited it, and I think Lukasz as well. You're probably not on your top 10 places of list of places to visit either, I guess.
I mean, Nashville was on my list, right? It's a
Okay.
really nice and well-known place. So yeah, checked. And probably also to explain how the large place was, we can mention about the boat trip that you could take there, right? It's unusual. Inside the building, the boat trip to see everything around it, right? So that was huge.
So it almost felt like a mini Venice, right? Indoor Venice.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of steps. I think I had
Yeah.
15 to 20,000 steps per day just going between the hotel and here. And Broadway. So
So it wasn't as bad as the Swan and Dolphin, is all you guys are saying.
Yeah, not so much. No sudden downpours. We were covered at least, so that helped.
Nice. Yeah, and then the next one, which I thought was curious. I know MVP summits are always full of info that you get before or after the symposium, depending on when they do it. But Łukasz, what did you find interesting about this MVP summit?
I mean, from my perspective, we've seen like the C-level people out there, right, answering the questions. I even asked one question about the DXP and what does it mean that Sitecore will still support it. What was answered, that was really cool, right? And thanks to this, we know that Sitecore is going to support Sitecore DXP for as long as it has to be supported. I think that the date that was mentioned was 2032 or something like that, right? So it's a really long time still for the customers that are using the on-premise version of Sitecore, right? So that was what like I remember the most from that part of the event.
yeah, this was my second one. I went to the one in Minneapolis last year, and both of these were at the front of the symposium week, which I appreciate. I know there's some discussion, and for those of you who have been many time MVPs, when you have it at the end, there's probably something to that. You see all the announcements and then you discuss them in a certain way. I kind of like this, and I don't know I didn't experience it the other way, but it kind of feels like the event is your own. It's a little exclusive early on. You had these, there's the nice little get together party at night. And it felt like a little bit of a tight knit exclusive group then, which leads into the week. And then all of a sudden 3,000 people come, but having the C-level there was really fascinating. And it wasn't like they only showed up there for the picture. And I mean, they gave a solid hour fireside chat hosted by Sean Broderick there, who did a really good job. He also hosted a podcast or a live video show during the symposium itself. But they weren't in a hurry. They weren't looking at watches. They were really a part of the event, even so much as when we got there, CEO Dave O'Flanagan was just in the back, very nicely comes up and says hello, shakes our hands, knew our names, which is a really nice thing. And they hung around even after. They were not in a rush to go anywhere. They were really a part of it. And some people could say you could do that optically, but it doesn't matter. It's the right thing to do. And I think it really started the week off in a nice way, gave us a taste of the announcements coming, and probably Cam, to the point when we got to the partner summit the next day and then symposium, it felt like we'd known this album for about a year already, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we kind of discussed this after SubCon Europe, right? We kind of came back out of that with this entirely renewed buzz around Sitecore, the leadership, the future and the vision that they had. And we had discussed it back then. It was really exciting. And it was really nice to see that same enthusiasm and that same level of access, even more here at Sitecore Symposium and Sitecore MVP Summit. As Matt mentioned, it wasn't just they came for the fireside chat and then they answered a few questions and they left. They stuck around the entire day. They were around in the evening at the MVP Summit. I know a few other people had turned up. I think Eric Stein wasn't on this fireside chat, but he was at the MVP Summit. I guess he turned up a little bit later, and he came around and he walked around the MVP party and said hello to everyone, shook our hands, got to kind of know us a little bit, which was really, really nice. I have never met him before. I've never interacted with him before, but he genuinely took an interest in the MVP community and everyone around the community. And then also just during the entire symposium itself, everyone was still around. So, I had several conversations with Roger, Kathy, and Dave, and even Danny. They were around at symposium, whereas in previous Symposium almost felt like they were guarded away a little bit. And I get it. There's a lot of business to be had, but you barely see them previously. And I know actually you've obviously been around in this community for a very, very long time. You know how Sitecore leadership used to be and how heavily they were involved in the community. And that was one of the things that we really, really loved. The kind of almost the one-on-one times that we'd have. It wasn't just some group of people who were leading this company. It was they were part of everybody else in the community. So it really does again continue to feel like that. And obviously, we had a lot of great discussions, a lot of conversations under NDA. So unfortunately, we can't really discuss the specifics of those. But I personally feel like there's this amazing roadmap ahead, and Sitecore's doing a lot to keep their current customer base who are on the DXP, as well as push them forward with both XM Cloud and future enhancements to the on-prem DXP.
To your point, Cam, that they were around during the MVP summit. They not only were around there, they were also very easy accessible, right? So everyone can just shook the hands, right? Say hi, ask some questions. What was a different approach to what we've seen so far, right? So that's a really cool change that we had a chance to see there.
And one other follow-up on that.
Definitely back to a lot of selfies happening, right? So that's definitely right. Back to the Sitecore selfies.
Yeah, that's right. The other thing that pervaded throughout the whole week too was not only being open and available to speak with any and all people, not kind of being in a separate room away from folks and then showing up for the discussion itself. They tried to be Sitecore and the leadership tried to be very open to what we would call earned media, right? Like they had the aforementioned, I don't know if we'll have a picture in it, but Sean Broderick and someone from Horizontal Digital had a full main stage kind of like recap video show that was running all day with the stream. I found that to be kind of innovative. We also, at these events, you'll usually have coverage from places like CMS Wire, maybe CMS Critics, some trade publications. They had the editors-in-chief of both of those outlets here covering the whole event, having private interviews for an hour at a time with Dave in a separate ballroom. Sitecore is very open to wanting to tell the story far and wide. And I think that's a sign of really believing in the product and what they have right now, and not letting it just speak for itself, but going out to where the audiences are and having the hard questions asked and really giving the time to media outlets. I found that to be really refreshing.
Yeah, that sounds like how it used to be back in the day, where people were really excited about things and they felt like they were connected to Sitecore in a different way than in the recent past. But Dave and the new people coming in seems like has brought that new vision out. I mean, there were a lot of announcements at the symposium. One of them, the headliner being the Sitecore Stream. So what did you guys hear about Sitecore Stream? Like from the outside in, it seemed like this was their flagship announcement for the entire of the symposium. So what was it about? What can it do for customers?
Sitecore is launching a brand new Netflix service. No.
Ted Lasso season 4.
With that Netflix streaming service. Yeah, absolutely, as Matt said. So this was obviously the big announcement, Sitecore Stream. And I don't think everyone expected this. This is their big flagship AI initiative that they're launching. And it's extensive, it's impressive, and it is going to revolutionize how we work with Sitecore going forward.
I think as well that when ChatGPT became available, not even that long ago now, right? What's it, over 2 years almost now? We're a little under 2 years because it was right in November, and then people really started using it at the start of 2023. But this generative AI had really been something that you go to to utilize, right? It's not necessarily integrated into something like a digital experience platform. You use it, maybe it's a plugin, but it's not fully immersed. And what we're seeing now as we're maturing with this technology, and when you look at someone like Sitecore being, multi-billion-dollar company, fully in the enterprise, really fully hand in hand with a Microsoft, they can go and collaborate and go to market with solutions that smartly integrate these elements together. So you're not going to a separate place to do it, it's just, as they said in the announcement, it's brand aware AI. It's what they really tried to push as well is to say, we're leaving the era of composable DXP and we're going to the era of intelligent DXP. So really something that we're going to probably see a fair amount of. I know this isn't a Keneco one, but I just came back from Keneco. They have their own thing called IRA, AIRA, similar. But this was really, really high level and impressive. And really the thing that they're going to stand on. And we've been waiting for the AI to kind of go into the background and do the great work without us having to just go prompt it all the time. And there will be these things, but it's going to use that and just infuse the DXP, both composable and on-premise, which was a big announcement. I know Lukas he's our on-premise guy, but he's infusing it as a layer. They use the word orchestration, not like DXO, right? But it's an orchestration layer of generative AI built into the solution in a seamless way.
Why don't we take a quick look at the video, and then we can. I guess we're not getting the audio come through, but yeah, so imagine there's some nice background music here. So this was this is the actual the video that Sitecore has released. You can catch this on YouTube. Just look for Sitecore Stream, introducing Sitecore Stream. But again, the whole point is it's immersive artificial intelligence, right? Immersive generative AI, and across the board. So it's not just a case of, hey, I can go into Chat GPT, I can give it some prompts, and it will give me something back, which is very, very generic. It's integrated into all of the products, and I think this is where it becomes extremely impressive. That it's not just, hey, here's a button that you can click on a field and it will, you type in some text, you click a button and it goes and does something from Chat GPT. It's fully what they call brand aware. So it will take, like, the best way to train, like when you're using Chat GPT, it's been trained on everybody's data, so it's very, very generic data. What you want is to have a LLM, a large language model, which has been trained on your specific content and your specific data, right? So then when you are telling it to generate something, you want to look at your content and say, okay, I understand the generic kind of English language or whatever language you've picked, but I need to enhance it. And when I'm talking, I need to talk to it in this specific tone of voice, which is my tone of voice, using my content and using my context and my industry and knowledge within that. And this is where Sitecore's implementation is going to add the most value.
And I think as well,
I think that the key phrase. Yeah, I think that the key phrase here is the phrase that Matthew already mentioned. So, brand aware AI, right? So it means that you can have multiple different models trained on the data that you get from different brands, right? So you can have different answers for one brand, different answers for different brand. A different content will be generated for one brand, different content will be generated to the other one. It is not only the content generation. There are also workflows, AI supported workflows that can help your teams to cooperate to do the work quicker, better, with the better results. And also, I mean, I think on that video, or maybe on the different one actually about the Sitecore stream, there was a case where you could the marketing team were asking for the colors or brand guidelines for one of the brands of Nestle, right? So for every single brand, the answer will be different, and based on the answers, those managers, those content editors can make the informed decisions that are specific to the brand, right? And that's the difference from the just AI added to the CMS, right? Because we've seen that before, some like AI generated content, but in this case, it's different. It's better because this is brand aware, and it really helps business to drive the change.
And then they
Yeah,
talk
that was
workflows.
very.
Can you guys tell us a little bit about that? Because I was curious more on that part, like the AI powered workflows.
Yeah, so the AI enhanced workflows will essentially allow you to go and or use the AI to help you during your workflow process. So that could be as a review step, for example. So if somebody has written some content, maybe it's been generated using AI to begin with, or they've just written something, you can use the workflow enhancements to go and check, does this follow our brand tone of voice? Does this follow our brand guidelines? We have, specific things set up to say, content must be like this, in this tone or that tone, in this industry, we can say this or we can't say that. I mean, think about some of the pharmaceutical industry, for example, even the legal industry, and the healthcare industry. We know there's certain things you can say and you can't say. So think of it as, some almost a peer review before you send it over to human to say, does it follow these guidelines? So that's going to just give you immediate feedback, number one, and it's going to save somebody having to go and review it if it's not going to meet the brand guidelines. You can also go ahead and start to actually automate some of those approvals. You can automate scheduling of those tasks, of that content, for example, and automate some of those other tasks, and kick off other automations if you need to.
They also had things where you could essentially use the AI to help create landing pages and campaigns based on the brand aware elements. And the last thing I wanted to say overall on Stream and AI, from my point, is they're really investing and devoting the resources to it. We heard a lot from Mo Sharif, who's celebrating his first year there. He was a former, I think, longtime Sitecore MVP at an agency. He is the senior director of generative AI. He evangelizes it internally, externally, is an advocate to it, to leadership about it. So there is a person, if you have any questions or anything, follow him on LinkedIn. He is living and breathing how the generative AI can immerse and enhance the Sitecore platform.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, it's across the board. So it's not just, hey, we've got some generative AI in Sitecore XM Cloud, for example, or just the Content Hub. It's across the board into all of the products. I personally, at this moment in time, don't know how they work across the board. So if I had a suite of products, are they all talking to the same language model in the background? Because that would make sense, right? It gives me even more context. But when you're then feeding that into things like search, for example, because we're seeing this big as well now, right? Where actually for me as well, ChatGPT is now my first stop when I need to find something out rather than going to Google. And a lot of people are seeing this. ChatGPT itself, we know that people are using ChatGPT itself for search, and ChatGPT itself is using Bing in the background to surface some of those results, as well as provide some information. So I think search is obviously a huge one where you can just go in and ask a question. So, go into a shop, for example, and say, I'm looking for this type of product for my, to celebrate my 1 year anniversary, for example, and it can give you some recommendations just based on natural language. So I think that's going to be a big one. And I know in the previews towards one of the closing keynotes, they gave some previews of upcoming things they're going to be introducing that they're working on right now. Multi-step personalization was one of the big announcements. So right now, the personalization is just based on if they've done action A, then you show them content B. Their multi-step was almost like a workflow builder where you could say, if they've done this and they've done that, or they've done this, then show them this or do that. I think that coupled with the AI, coupled with personalized and all the analytics behind that is going to be huge. It's really exciting, and I know we've kind of seen this. I'm going to say in air quotes, because we've had Sitecore Cortex before as an announcement, and nothing really came of that. But it feels like this is much more different. Like this is using AI and machine learning based off the Microsoft platform in the background. We talk about secure because it's secure within your own parameters of your own boundary. It's your own model, so it's not like you're sharing this model with another brand, another agency, and you're potentially got concerns around leakage of private data, which we don't want, especially around customer data, personalization data, some back of the scenes configuration and settings data.
It's better quality, right?
Sorry?
And it's better quality too.
Yeah, absolutely, right? It's very specific to your company, but it feels like this is much more different because AI in general has become a big thing, and you're kind of building on top of existing services rather than trying to build something completely yourself, including those algorithms and those models. And you're on mute, actually.
One of the other things that was announced was the HIPAA compliance, which is really interesting because there's some rules and regulations in terms of where the data is stored, how it's processed, how it's in transport. Why was this such a big enough thing to announce? Like, what did they share regarding this?
I'll take it on, sure. So as we know, so one of the issues holding customers back from getting onto XM Cloud was HIPAA compliance. One of the issues, and we know there's regional issues as well, but so one of the benefits of having a hosted service, host platform like Sitecore XP, Sitecore XM, is you control where that data lives, like end to end. You control the entire residency of that data. So when you need HIPAA compliance, you need to have that data within certain regions and to meet certain compliance, regulatory compliance, for example. There's other bits to it apart from just obviously data residency. And I know actually you've worked on a lot of solutions that have required HIPAA compliance, so the kind of lengths that companies have to go to meet that requirements. So obviously the Sitecore suite of products, and it wasn't just one product. It wasn't just like, hey, it's just XM Cloud. Their suite of products is HIPAA compliant. So that you can just, hey, you know what? We're going to go on XM Cloud. We're going to be using this set of products from Sitecore, and they have already verified and made sure that it's HIPAA compliant. So I don't have to go and do that. Because they're HIPAA compliant, I can get on to be using XM Cloud. I can be using those SaaS products, and I know that I'm meeting all regulatory needs.
No, that definitely helps. The other one you guys mentioned when you came back was all of the apps and plugins in the marketplace. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Don't all jump in at once.
Yeah, don't all jump in at once.
Yeah, and don't someone else other than Cameron speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've obviously had a marketplace in Sitecore before. Well,
Yeah.
We know that that's been around since forever, right? It was originally Track, I believe, track.sitecore.net, and then changed to marketplace. But that was more of a place that people could go and say, hey, I've created a module, download the module, install it, and do, it does this feature and does that feature. But it was just essentially a place that you could go and download something that you would then go and do something with, right? The marketplace, that kind of disappeared because those modules were outdated. They hadn't been kept up to date, unfortunately. And in my opinion, for good reason, it did disappear, and more people that were working on those modules made those available through GitHub, for example, right? Cycle PowerShell extensions is a big one, for example. We know that every solution uses that. And that's now maintained through GitHub. You want to get the latest version, you go to GitHub, download it, it's available there. So Sitecore is missing an app marketplace, particularly for the modern SaaS platforms, XM Cloud in particular, I'm thinking, where so with XM Cloud, they're telling you don't go and make enhancements to the content management images, right? Don't go and do anything to those, because if you go and make changes to it, and Sitecore then goes and will go and continuously make updates, makes changes, improve this thing, you've gone ahead and made a change to the CM instance, and you end up in this same cycle as before, where now they can't automatically upgrade your XM Cloud instance because you made customizations to it. So you can't make customizations to it, but you still need to make some integrations. How do you do that? What we have been doing in other systems is some of them will allow you to make customizations while keeping those customizations external. Others are telling you to use the webhooks and the events, right? But those have limitations. So the marketplace is there to fill that gap and to fill that need. Think of it almost like you would an Apple app, the App Store for Apple, for example. You go there, there's a bunch of apps in there, you say install, and that will then go and install that app into your XM Cloud instance, into your SaaS product instances. So think of if you needed a Cloudinary integration or a Binder integration, for example, or even something as simple as maybe the Google Tag Manager should be in your solution itself anyway, but there may be some integration into a translation system, for example. That code needs to sit somewhere, and the logical place in an XM Cloud SaaS-based solution is you have an app store. You go to the app store and say, install this into my instance, and boom, it's there, and you have that available. You don't have to add any custom code into your solution. As XM Cloud gets updated, they will ensure that these apps continue to be supported, if you like. They continue to be compatible with everything else. And the other advantage is, as these apps themselves are updated and enhanced, you will also get those new features, those new enhancements, and you can benefit from those straight away. So think about your translation service, for example. If that starts to add in some AI capabilities itself, then you will just get that without having to go and manually update that marketplace module.
I think too that one of the downsides when we look back at monolithic legacy DXPs is that they start trying rightfully to do this, but to be everything to everybody. And where we are now in the composable and then ultimately this intelligent DXP is best of breed solutions for certain key aspects, right? So Sitecore in this composable marketplace is giving you so many of the products at a high level, best of breed, but they can't do every single thing. So marketplaces like this allow to fill in any of those, I won't even call them gaps, but those pieces where there's maybe an opportunity for a bridge or plugins. You brought up Apple Camrus. A lot of people probably think of, I know it's not enterprise WordPress, right? With the term plugins, but this allows you to stay within the ecosystem, and you can see on the facets on the side there, they're telling you kind of what the various elements in there are. So they have ones developed by Sitecore. So obviously you see Sitecore Stream there as an app right away. Partner supported. So whether it's in the solutions, partner solutions catalog, or just little accelerators or apps that are built by partners and are vetted and approved by Sitecore to be in here. It's just trying to kind of give you the gamut of all of your needs in a best of breed marketplace.
And we know that there's a lot of great community supported modules as well. So again, it will allow this community to actually develop plugins and give back, and allow collaborative development on open source type modules. And the other thing that was discussed was we may have, let's just say Conoverse as a company may have developed a module for a customer or a set of customers, but it's not generally available to the public. Modules can be developed and marked as private. So you could have something developed custom for your customer, your project for that particular instance, push it to the marketplace, have it marked as private. You can then install it to your XM Cloud instance, and you're still following those best practices. So you're not customizing the CM instance directly, and that can continue to be upgraded and updated as new features are released. But your module is then deployed in the same way as these apps and plugins are deployed.
Yeah, that makes sense. So XP, one of my all-time favorite CMSs on the planet. I know it's monolith or whatever you want to call it, but it's still the best in my opinion. But they talked about XP, the support for it going into the next version 10.5 coming up, I think next October or something like that. So what was the whole premise about talking about Platform DXP, and why did it make the main stage on the symposium?
Maybe I will address that. Yeah, so finally, right, Cameron, you don't have to talk this time. Yeah, XP is still there. It's still available for the customers. Sitecore heavily invests in that, right? And
looks like Łukasz lost power or something.
Did the power go out? That's crazy.
Timing, huh? Finally he gets a chance. We'll give him
he gets a chance to speak, but it's gone.
Sitecore turned off the power.
Yeah, that's it. XP is no more. It did make an appearance on the main stage, and there was actually a couple of breakout sessions on that. We'll give Łukasz a couple of minutes so you can dive into the details of those. I think over the past, we've seen it over the past like 2-3 years. We've discussed this before, and we mentioned that it was announced at SubCon that DXP is not dead. It is going to be supported. It will continue to be supported. So I think it was great to see this return of XPXM Platform DXP back on stage. We know it's a hugely important platform. There are very good reasons for using it and continue to use it. We just mentioned the HIPAA compliance, right? So up until that announcement, guess what? If you wanted to be HIPAA compliant, you needed to use XMXP on-prem, right? So there was extremely good reasons for it continuing to be needed. And yeah, again, Sitecore's announcement is, we will meet the customer where they are. If XMXP is a platform that they want to use, we will absolutely continue to support it and enhance it and develop it. And we had sessions in the MVP summit, and unfortunately we can't go into the specifics of the details because it does come under our NDA. And then there was at least 2 or 3 sessions from the people at Sitecore on XPXM roadmap, and we do have a session coming up which we can discuss shortly. And then Matt, they talked about the integrations, right, of Sitecore Stream. I think that was a big one that you were actually quite surprised with, I'd say, or excited by at the same time.
Yeah, I think just to going into that on what you said there was, I don't want to say a rush, but an excitement that Sitecore has this cloud native platform for the future. And sometimes when you have that, some might call it a shiny new object, you just want everyone to go there. And there were certain things that showed up. One, a lot of customers in this kind of large scale platform can't move. It's like moving an aircraft carrier really quickly, right? It's an aircraft carrier. It needs to do things at a certain speed. It needs to plan. It has multiple, probably thousands of employees sometimes. So there was that. And then there was also just, sometimes you don't want to get too far out ahead of the customer. You want to give your excitement about the things and tell them the benefits of going there. But at the end of the day, it's okay to be on premise. It's still a very important customer base, and it's better to keep them than to lose them because of the zeal to move ahead. So I think that once there was that understanding, the idea, like you said, to meet the customer where they are, which you always should do. You always hear that phrase when maybe you stop doing that. They did that, and they figured how to build these new solutions, these new future-ready elements like Sitecore Stream, and to have it be a layer into this, so you can benefit from this, even if you're on-prem, and you have a gamut of customers that you're servicing, and you're not losing them, and you're not putting them in a corner where they can only launch on a certain platform. And that has been a very, very important direction for not only Sitecore's appearance to customers, but as a Sitecore partner, when you're talking to customers, we now have options, and you always want options.
And there's use cases for Platform DXP, right? Not everyone falls in the use case for composable or platform. It truly depends on the customer and situations. So yeah, I was excited with this one the most. Call me old, but I really was excited with this, especially looking at some of the chatter in terms of how you can make upgrades seamless in the DXP world, Platform DXP, especially because they're heavily customized, and it's always been quite challenging depending on the install that you deal with. But I'm so looking forward to this.
Yeah, and it's slated for 10.5 is slated for release in October 2025. So that gives us, almost a year from now. But as a result of that, as Lucas mentioned earlier, and he apologizes, he lost power, at his home. So perfect timing for that, of course. He didn't sacrifice enough coffee earlier. But that October 2025 means that 10.5 and the Sitecore DXP platform will be supported until at least 2032. And I'll emphasize the at least, because it's not like 10.5 is the last release. They have a long roadmap, and there's going to be a 10.6 or an 11 and a 12 and whatever else. And in my opinion, there will always be those who want to stay on-prem, and that's the best platform for them.
For sure. We have a couple of webinars coming up soon in another few weeks. So this one talks about all of the common pitfalls or challenges customers face. And if you're asking someone like me who's older, who loves the Sitecore Platform DXP, most of the time you can point a finger at the way it's implemented more than Sitecore itself, but it's easy to blame Sitecore for your implementation problems. So Cameron and I will be doing this one. It'll be quite interesting. And
we've seen this with other platforms as well. So it's always funny because we always hear, hey, it's Sitecore's like this and Sitecore's like that. And actually, we're working on other platforms. You're like, yeah, somebody's done the same thing to this other platform. So, and it's a common misconception that it must be the platform, whereas we'll talk through a few of the things we've seen and some quick wins that you can get to kind of hey, look, I should back, power's back.
Yeah. Lost power. Sorry, guys.
Did you want to say stuff about the Platform DXP, Lukash, or should we continue?
You can, yeah. I know Lucas was super excited by this. So
yeah, these were the sessions that I was planning to see for a long time. But I don't know what you guys said already. So
It's fine. It's just go ahead. Give your opinion.
oh yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I hope I will not lose the power again. But besides that, I don't know if you mentioned about the change in approach to add new features to Sitecore DXP. So things like modules. I mean, they will still invest in Sitecore, as I was saying, right? But instead of adding more to the platform itself, they're gonna announce more modules that can be installed, can be added, and they are doing that because they are planning to the maybe rewrite, maybe just add newer technology to already existing product, and it will be easier probably to upgrade when you have the modules separated from the platform itself, right? So that was one of the point. I see that, yeah, you have 10.5 mentioned. I probably don't have anything really interesting to add
Lukasz,
to
I'm going to
this
ask you
one.
a question.
Yeah.
Why? So you asked, as you noted in the MVP summit, this was your question. And this was something, these slides, when we saw them, these presentations were important to you. What are you seeing in your job as a solution architect that makes you feel it's so important to advocate for the XP like you are and ask the questions about it?
I mean, as actually said, it's still one of the best products platforms on the market. We work with the other platforms too, and we see that they are not so mature. They do not scale so great as Sitecore can, and even one of the sessions, I think one of the directors from Sitecore was doing that session during the symposium. He was saying that it's not fair to call it even a legacy because it's a product that fits well to the needs of some of the companies out there. So there are no better products available for them, right? If they want to have everything in house, SaaS will not work for them. Then what's the choice, right? What would be a need to change it to something else, which is no better than Sitecore? So it's like, yeah, it's still a great product. No one should feel bad because they still own it. Uh, but they should also remember about the upgrades, about security, things like that. Because I know that many people are waiting, and if they weren't at the symposium, they could miss all of that important stuff that was shared there. The plans, and I think that you mentioned already the next webinars, right? So the road mapping thing. Uh, it's really important to be at that webinar to see what is coming and how you can plan or the customers can plan their next moves with Sitecore, because moving out from that platform won't solve the problems, right? It's it can only generate more problems, I would say, right? It's better to stay on something that you know that works, improve the quality, improve or use what you have, because many customers still don't do that, and you will be happy with what you've got.
Thank you. All right. As we mentioned, we have the webinar coming up. So sign up on LinkedIn, use the QR code. There's another one the week after that one with Camrus and Peter going over like the roadmap for XP, XM, and the managed cloud. So that's another interesting one. Definitely sign up for the QR codes right
That's the
there.
one Lukasz was just mentioning. So highly recommend everyone joins this one. You'll get some insights into the next 12 to 18 months of Sitecore's current thinking of their roadmap, which not everything will be necessarily will make it. But this one for me and Lukasz as well, as you mentioned, was the really exciting one to see. Okay, they are really driving innovation here, and they're really thinking about where they're going, and they're talking about this publicly. So definitely recommend joining that one. It'll be a great chance for you guys to ask questions as well.
Cool. And MVP applications are open for Sitecore. Again, it's pretty public and it's been on LinkedIn and several other stuff, but use the QR code again. It ends at the end of November, so put in your applications. You don't need to be nominated or someone doesn't need to recommend it this year. So go ahead and apply for it. And last but not the least, so again, we are Conobos. If you need any help with Sitecore or any other digital experience platform or integration, please do get in touch with us. Thank you, Matt, Cameras, and Mukesh for spending your time giving us all of your insights from the symposium.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.